He's a pinball wizard, has to be a twist. A pinball wizard's got.
The phrase pinball wizard entered pop culture back in 1969 with the release of Tommy, a rock opera by The Who. Tracy Smith caught up with the legendary band's Pete Townshend to trace the album's musical journey.
Do you like coming to New York?
Yeah, I love it. I love the walking. And one of the things that's interesting is you're looking ahead. You see somebody that you know 100 yards away, and by the time they've arrived, you remember their name, when you last saw them, because you've got all that time.
Because you've got time.
Yeah.
For Pete Townshend,
I love it.
things are looking up.
Look at that. Heal me, see me, feel me.
Yeah. Is anybody looking at it except us? Look up there, people, up there! Oh, the powering youth.
His Tommy is back on Broadway. His original rock opera has been reimagined for 2024. But it's still one of those rare Broadway shows where you already know the words to just about every song. Tommy is the story of young Tommy Walker, who, after witnessing a murder, shuts down emotionally and becomes, quote, deaf, dumb, and blind. And a pinball prodigy who's healed in part by seeing his reflection in a mirror.
Tommy, can you hear me?
Nearly all of it was written in the late 60s by Pete Townshend, who was then in his early 20s. It was made into a flashy, surreal movie in 1975, starring The Who and a who's who of entertainment.
He's a pinball wizard, there has to be a twist.
Including Elton John, Tina Turner,
His eyes react to light, the dials detected.
Jack Nicholson, and Anne Margaret. And in 1993, director Des McAnuff convinced Townshend to take it to Broadway, where it won 5 Tonys.
You may be absolutely right with sensation. I mean, I think we get also...
On national
Yes.
television, what the do I know?
Townshend and McAnuff are together again, and now, with the world seemingly obsessed with looking at itself, both are convinced that Tommy is more relevant today than ever.
Were you at all concerned that people would see this as a nostalgia show?
Yes, absolutely. It was less about, let's rework it for a modern audience. It was that everybody's wandering around staring into a mirror, trying to escape a hostile universe, albeit it's a black mirror, but it resonates in a new way. It has a pertinence now that we didn't think it necessarily did 30 years ago.
See me.
Tommy is played by Ali Louis Borski, and talk about a baptism of fire. It's his first Broadway role ever.
Speaking of scary, was it intimidating at all meeting Pete Townshend?
Yeah, I really wanted to make sure that I was doing his piece justice.
Can I go to Sensation, please? Can I have the 4 couples in their spots?
It's the same for choreographer Lauren Latero. There's not much dialogue in Tommy, so every move is important.
Do you have a particular favorite dance moment where you look and go, oh, that works?
I really love this sort of, we call it the rubber band section of Pinball Wizard. The kids are doing this and then they jump off the pinball machines, and some of the guys get so high off those pinball machines. It's pretty cool.
In Townshend's original version, Tommy was a rock star, but a friend of his, who was a critic and a pinball fanatic, thought that was a tired idea. So Townshend came up with a solution overnight.
I said, well, I could change it so that instead of being a rock star, he was a pinball player. I was clutching at straws. Anyway, so next day I sent him the demo.
I'm sorry, next day?
Next day, yeah.
You just wrote it?
Yeah.
Pinball Wizard?
Yeah. And he called me on the phone. He said, Pete, it's 5 stars and an extra ball. Anyway, so he gave it a great review.
Tommy has stayed on The Who's playlist for years now, but for Townshend, it's always been a lot more than just an album.
You've said that each iteration of Tommy takes something out of you.
Yeah, I can't remember the context of the quote, but I've said so much about it, and sometimes I chuck stuff out just to sound clever. So.
But I know that in the past, like when you played Tommy all the way through at Royal Albert Hall in 2017, that was tough for you.
I had an anxiety attack.
Why?
I sing Acid Queen when The Who perform.
I'm the gypsy, the acid queen.
And I was in the middle of singing, and I remembered a memory that I'd never remembered before. When I was a kid and I was staying with my crazy grandmother, I was between 4.5 and 6.5. I was abused, and I remembered it. I'd never remembered it
in
before.
The middle of
on
playing.
the stage.
Oh my goodness.
And I nearly stopped and walked off the stage. So that kind of stuff does happen. The subject matter of Tommy is really heavy in lots of ways.
But it's the heaviness, and just maybe the music, that resonates with people. So now, Tommy is reaching yet another generation.
When somebody says, oh, you went to see Tommy, what was it like? It's about conveying the way that you've been affected. Is it important? Or is it just, dare I say it, is it just ABBA? You know, and the thing about ABBA and their success is just originally the brilliance of the music, and you tend to go no further. And story has been imposed from the outside on the music.
There's not a
in
story
this case,
in
what
the
you
music.
actually have is a story that underpins some really great music, rock music and pop music, and a few show tunes, which is worth thinking about.
You feel me coming.
So what are your hopes for Tommy this time around?
You know, we just hope that it will dig in for a while. Des and I were committed to the idea of bringing the show to Broadway with our fingers crossed, because there's lots of other great things going up. But for me, it was just for the romance.
The romance.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Broadway. You know, it's just so great to be on Broadway.